Hello, everybody. My name is Becky Draper, and I'm an Ayurveda health coach and Vedic astrologer. And today we are going to talk about the new moon in Taurus in the nakshatra of Megashira. And this is happening today on June 15th. So, just to be clear, I'm doing Vedic astrology. So, if you are like, no, the moon is in Gemini or Cancer, that is not true. The moon is actually right now in the sky, it is in the constellation of Taurus. So, this is going by the true placements of the planets. Okay, so let's start by, if you've been following my channel, then you know that the new moon is when we are releasing things, we are facing our shadow, and we're letting go. So this is when we actually want to spend time alone and contemplating and just doing a little bit of that like deeper work. And I'm going to do a moon manifesting series soon, a whole class about it. And if you want to do that, I'll leave the link for my school, and it will be in a month from now. We'll start it. But basically, the idea of the moon is that we're following it psychologically, because the moon represents our minds and our emotions. And so the moon goes through this cycle every single month where it starts out kind of like with the dark moon, and we're kind of like, oh no, I'm feeling disturbed, and we have to face some of these like darker energies. And then we go a couple days past the new moon and we start to feel a little bit more like hope, and we can kind of start thinking about what we want to bring into our life, because we looked at what we don't want in our life. And so that's like the contrast. And so we need the contrast in order to know what we actually do want to bring in. And when we're talking about the moon and like manifesting, we're talking about manifesting the desired emotional state that we want to be in. We're not talking about manifesting a new car. Although if you are in a better desired emotional state, then you're more likely to draw that new car to you. So, this is really much more about our psychological well-being and less about the actual material things that we are surrounding ourselves by. And when we are working with these emotions, we need to come back to them again and again. So we, start with that new moon. We start thinking about what we want to bring in. We get to the full moon. We celebrate all the abundance, all of the things that we have been drawing in, and all of the things that we've been creating over the last 2 weeks, and all of the hard work that we've done on ourselves. And then we will slowly start to feel ourselves go back to that disturbed state, or where that like dark moon is. And the best way I can describe this is when I was in a grief group. You would go back to the grief group every 2 weeks to kind of confront your pain. And that was like the whole point of the grief group, is that we didn't just like bury it away, that we made an effort every 2 weeks to confront this darkness. And that's what the moon is telling us. It says, every 28 days, about you need to go in and kind of connect with the darkness in order for you to understand that light, and in order for us to like release what's there. We actually need to like interact with it. And that's what, the grief group is about. And it's easy for us to just like stuff our emotions away and pretend it's not happening. And there's a ton of like spiritual bypassing and just be positive. And that's not what the moon is telling us. The moon is saying, no, you need to come back to these dark emotions every month and face them again. And so that's really what the moon course will be about, and how we work with the moon in releasing the shadow and then like building the desired state that we want. And in this case, the new moon is in Taurus, and this Taurus is where the moon's exalted. It's actually exalted in the Rohini Nakshatra, but Magashira is still in Taurus, and it's still the energy of comfort and stability. And this is actually where it's represented. I brought my cards that I made, my wonderful art, but Megashira is represented by a deer, and deer like move quickly, and they're very beautiful, delicate creatures. And this is the story. This like is the part of the stories of the nakshatra where Rohini is like um where we find beauty in the world. And then Magashira is where we take this discovery of what we think is beautiful and we start to create our own beauty in the world. And a lot of the time with Magashira, it's about taking a bad situation and making it beautiful. And that's kind of the story because in Rohini, this is where the king falls in love with one of his daughters. And Magashira, part of the story, is where she breaks free and she escapes her father. And so this is the story of like our independence and where we take what we've learned and we bring it into the world. And even if some of the things that have happened into our lives have been challenging and difficult and not so pretty, we take those experiences and we make something beautiful out of it. And so this is really an opportunity to not only feel a little bit more grounded during the new moon time where we don't have all of the moon energy because the moon's exalted here and we're feeling more stable emotionally. So we can face the darkness easier because we have that support of the moon to go into the darkness. But this is also where we can realize that a lot of the things that we see as negative or we see as bad are really actually more neutral. And that it's what we do with those experiences later that make them positive or negative, because we can take something that was really painful and we can create something out of that experience that is quite beautiful. And that's the story of Magashira. And so the challenge right now is suggest looking at your own life and thinking about some of the things that you are seeing as like a bad thing. As and a lot of the time this is something you don't like. It's making you feel horrible. And it may even be traumatic for a minute. It may be something that's just like where you're like completely losing your life and you're having to change everything. And we can still, in the moment of going through these experiences, try and see this as like maybe the world is actually working something out for you. So, one of the examples I give for this is like, let's say you're on your way to work and you get a flat tire, you have to pull over on the side of the road, and now you're going to be late, and you're all stressed out, and you're have to like fix your tire. And if you're like me, then you have to like call somebody to help you. And then you have like wasted 30 minutes of your day. But you could see this as like maybe this happened to actually keep me from like a bigger accident happening further down the road. Like we never know. And we can start to see these little blunders, these little like obstacles and challenges as actually little blessings that are working out for us. They're actually keeping us from making a bigger mistake. And it's pulling us actually in alignment into the flow. And a lot of times we're like, oh, this flat tire is pulling me out of the flow. But if it's your reality and that's what's happening, then that's your flow. And when you can say, oh, this is probably happening for my highest good, something is protecting me right now. And of course, like we don't need to get nitpick this. Like obviously there's situations where mentally we're not going to be able to do this. So this is more about taking like mundane things like a flat tire and turning it into a positive situation. And if you're going through like a really challenging situation right now, just remember that you don't know what the actual outcome is going to be, and it's not necessarily going to be bad. And oftentimes we tend to worry more than we need to. And if you find yourself worrying, you can do like a Magashira flip where you think about what you actually want. So rather than thinking about what you don't want, you can start thinking about what you do want. And that's how we create beauty into the world from something that's causing us a disturbance. So I'm going to stop ranting because I think that that's pretty clear. But when the moon's in Taurus, we are connecting to that stable energy where we can actually face more of our challenges and have the capacity to kind of flip it into something that maybe is working out for us and kind of seeing our challenges more as like opportunities. And so, happy new moon. I hope that you're able to spend a little bit of time going into some of your disturbances. And I hope that you join us on our new moon manifestation circle that's happening next month. So I'll talk to you soon.